What's your why?
I think that was just kind of when I was like that aha, like educators are real people. Kids are real. They need to see that you are a real person as well.
That's the voice of 2023 North Dakota Teacher of the Year finalist Megan Margerum from Northern Cass Public School, where she's an English language arts teacher. You're listening to What's Your Why? I'm Tom Gerhardt from North Dakota United, along with 2022 North Dakota Teacher of the Year, Brett Doctor. We're here to uplift educators and education. In this episode, Margerum talks about what gives her hope about education, one thing she'd like to see changed. She also shares a story about something that's made a big difference in her career.
Megan, it's great to see you as always. So would you tell us a little bit about where you teach, what kind of content area, and then how many years have you been doing this?
Yeah, so I am in Northern Cass, just in Hunter, just a few miles north of Fargo, about a half hour. We're kind of in the middle of a cornfield. And I've actually only been at this school for 5 years. And I've been in education for 14. So I started at a small school just outside of, I went to Moorhead State. I did my student teaching there, and then I was able to get a job right after. So that was pretty cool. And then my husband, he was ready for something more and just said, there's this opening at Northern Cass, and I think I want to try to be the principal there. I'm going to apply for the job. He got the job. And it was kind of like, okay, well, cool. Now what am I going to do? So I ended up calling Corey Steiner here, the superintendent. And he said, we want you here. We want you with Doug, but we don't have a gen ed position open, but we do have special ed open. And I said, yes, I will take it. Get my foot in the door. Had heard about some things about Northern Cass and just knew they were very innovative. And just kind of charging ahead. And I'm certainly one of those that wants to try new things. I'm a runner. I get bored easily. So I love just kind of the climate and culture we have here with that. So I was able to come here and do special ed for a year. And it was life-changing. I feel like every gen ed educator should do a year of special ed. It really just changed the way I teach, the way I just see other learners. They're not all one size fits all. And it was a great year. However, my heart was still just back in the classroom with groups of kids and being able to just kind of differentiate and personalize within the gen ed classroom. So the following year after that, I was able to get a job in the third grade classroom, and that's where I have been since. So fourth year in the third grade classroom here at Northern Cass.
So Megan, back up just a little bit more. You told us about college and your early years in education, but how did you get into education in the first place? And we've been asking, did you have an aha moment, or did you come in through another door?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And it just sounds so cliche, but it really, I just grew up with, I just loved working with kids, first of all. My mom has a really big family. She has 13 brothers and sisters. And so, and a lot of them are educators. And so I just felt like this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. My mom was an educator, and every summer I would help her organize her classroom. And I just remember that feeling of starting fresh and being able to help her get ready and kind of the excitement and that nervous energy. And so I grew up with it. And I really think I just grew to love it. And there were certain educators in my high school, and I guess in elementary as well, but high school just kind of sticks in my memory more. But those educators that you're like, wow, because of you, I want to go into education. And I still vividly remember one of my social studies teachers. It's not necessarily, social studies doesn't always have the most interesting stuff to talk about and learning about dates and things like that. But she was one of those educators that just found other ways for us to kind of develop our strengths. And if you want to sing a song to me, you can sing a song. If you want to, make a poster, it's not just this, everybody's taking this test. She kind of used our strengths and let us really kind of have that voice and choice. And now that's really how I, every day I try to reach for that, just letting our kids kind of advocate for their learning and, just really like, why are you here? Finding that relevance. And I just feel like she really honed in on that for us and let us have those experiences. And that's really just how I fell in love with teaching and learning. And I feel like I am still a student every day. And like as far as professional development, I am constantly wanting to better my craft. And I want to go on social media and I meet with people. And so I just love, being able to do this with you guys, because I love just getting, my voice out there and then hearing from others as well. I think it's so awesome.
You kind of already touched on this, Megan, but I just maybe delve in a little deeper. You talked about mentors and how kind of talk about how they've shaped you, how they've made you who you are in your classroom. And you kind of already have, but maybe can you elaborate on that a little more for us?
Yeah, I think too, I was able to in high school, we were able to have an internship class, sort of like an internship, but, and it was only just a few days, but we were able to actually go into a classroom and work. I think those experiences too kind of shaped me to be like, okay, these are just, different examples of educators or how they're teaching. And I think, just having all those examples and seeing that kids are so different from each other, that we can't keep doing the same things with each kid. Like they need something more, or some maybe need hands-on, or some maybe, like to work alone. And even just with like behaviors too, and just having those experiences in high school and seeing like this is what I want, and being able to kind of change lives that way. So I don't know. Honestly, I could tell you I love being in the classroom, but I would love to also, one day in the future, I would love to teach at the college level and be able to, I've done some work with Concordia and just, teaching those new educators and getting them so excited for this profession and showing them like what personalized learning can be and how we can make it different, how we can kind of turn education upside down and do things differently than we have.
It's just to build off that. So in Harvey, we call it Silk, and students from the high school can come over and work in the grade school. And I've always thought the same as you, is what a great opportunity for kids to get their feet wet, to start to see if this is what they want, and also to not only just be in my classroom, but to be in a bunch of different classrooms. And I'm jealous of them in some ways because I never had that experience. And not that I would have changed anything, but I just think that's a great tool that we need to utilize if we're going to continue to promote education.
Absolutely. And I think here, in our building, it's awesome that we are a pre-K 12. We are able to utilize some of those, learners in the high school that they are looking into education, and they, give them some experience. And if that's not for them, at least they've tried it. And if it's not what they're passionate about, I just think that is so important. And we actually do have an intro to education class here that kids are able to get college credit for. It's awesome. And those learners have come into my room before, and we've talked about our portrait of a graduate with them, and they've taught my kids, and it's just so cool for them, to get that opportunity.
Megan, you have a diverse background. You said 14 years, the year in special ed, general education, third grade, and you're in an innovative school district, to say the least. But you mentioned also the idea of working with Concordia and wanting to inspire future educators. Wanted to ask you what issues you see facing teachers and educators today.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I wish we could solve that right now. sitting here. No, I really just think that right now it's COVID is in people's heads. And I think, honestly, I think we need to we need to kind of just move on from it. Like, yes, it was definitely something detrimental that we all went through. But I think people are just tired too. I think there are some amazing parents that support, and then I think that might be just another, some people kind of going into education are worried about that, like, oh, can I do this, and they're hearing about behaviors and social emotional, and um I think that's what just really gets me excited for maybe helping some of those new educators coming in is just, no, we can help. Like there are ways that we can solve this. There are different, besides the traditional way that we've always taught. How can we help these new educators coming in? And that's why I just thought it was so important, Brett, when you started this, like the why, and getting that out there, because I feel like there's just been kind of a lot of negativity around education. Um, and I think just people are maybe just scared to come in now as like, oh, can I do this? Can I handle this? Kids are changing, our society's changing, everything's fast paced. And if you really just sit back and look at it, it's still, our kids are still who they've always been, really it is. It's just the world around them is changing. And how can we give them those experiences that, like we do our portrait of a graduate skills, how can we, those to me are more important sometimes than the curriculum and competencies. We're starting to work on competencies here at Northern Cass. What are those skills that they need? Yes, it's important to learn math, but it's very important to learn to be like resilient so that I can figure out my math, things like that. And so we're kind of moving to that too, the competency based. I don't really know that I answered your question though, as far as what are some things that I see. Yeah, it's a really, really great question. Can I ask what the other educators said?
Well, I was just thinking
Test this
about
out.
I was thinking you had a great answer there, and when I was thinking about this past year, I was in May. I was in Washington, and I was visiting with other educators from across the nation, and they said exactly what you said. They said, people are saying how hard teaching is right now, but teaching's always been hard. It's just a different type of hard now.
Yeah,
It's just a different. And it's not that it's any more one way or the other. It's just different, and I think a lot of it has to do, like you say, with COVID. But I also think maybe we're tired from COVID. Maybe I don't know, but it's not that it's new that it's hard. It's always been a challenge, and that's why we love it, and teachers love it. But it's something that it is. It's a really, like you said, it's a really interesting point to think about. People get scared of it. That's hard, but it's really no different than 20 years ago. It's just that's different.
absolutely.
I think.
Absolutely. And I think like the social emotional aspect of it too is something that, some of these kids were home without they had maybe an older sibling teaching them, or there wasn't a lot of structure.
Absolutely.
Parents were trying to work. And so we're just kind of trying to backfill that now. But
Right.
I hope that's just not the only reason that people are like, I just can't do this. Cause right now that's all they're hearing is the negativity. But I think we need to
Yeah.
get our kids like using those classrooms, like, intro to ed classes, getting them in and seeing that this isn't what you're hearing on the internet or you're seeing on social media. And, I follow, there's a lot of people on Twitter leaving the profession. And it just makes me sick and sad that like they don't have that around them maybe they don't have the support or, and my husband is a principal here. He's the high school principal, and it's a lot of work right now, but I think we just need to get past it. And how community too is just, and community and parent involvement and being involved with families is just also such a huge aspect that, how can they help out, or how can we help each other be a team to help your learner be successful? That's one of my big goals this year, was to what are ways that I'm going to get my families involved so that, to help these learners be successful.
That brings up to a good question for you. You kind of started to talk about it. How have you seen in your 14 years, how have you seen education change? And maybe that has to do with families. What types of things have you seen change over the years?
Yeah, I think, for me, like personally, just moving to a very innovative school district and having, our school has been in the news or, like hearing about us and what we're doing and how we're changing it here. It is so different if you guys came and watched in our building. And it's really hard to explain until we have a lot of visitors that come. And personalized learning and moving to, the competency-based grading. Our kids are making their own choices here. Like we're teaching them, obviously not kindergartners are saying, this is what I want, but really we are giving them those skills. And this is why I feel like those portrait of a graduate and competencies are so important at a young age, even, but we're giving them those skills to be advocating for themselves and to say like, this is how I learn. And not, again, giving them all the same assignment, the same, skill, there are kids that, they're ready for more. So we have to change that. We have to do that in education where it's not just, okay, you're going to just because everybody else is working still on this. So we're moving our kids, we're putting them on different pathways. I do learner profiles with my kids at the beginning of the year. And it's just a big old profile about them and what are their passions and goals and interests and how do you like to learn? And they're really just learning about themselves as a learner and as a child. But it's really opened my eyes to seeing that these kids can have these, tough conversations. They can learn how to advocate for themselves. They can learn to say, you know what, this isn't working for me, and making those mistakes and failing forward and saying, I need a different way. I need a different way to learn this, or I need to given a different way of showing you that I'm proficient in this. And so we love having people come and just watch because I would love to see other, we're working with West Fargo and a couple other schools. And I know there's, out West, there's some more schools that are moving to personalized or individualized learning. But I just love having people here and seeing it because it's really hard to explain it where kids are, voice and choice and making their own, how they want to learn for the day and what are some things that you have to get done. What are some things that, you could do. These are the things that we call them our may do and must do. And even at third grade level at 8, 9, 10 years old, they're able to make those decisions on their learning and say, well, this is why I need to know it. And I think when things are relevant and when those experiences, pertain to them or they're passionate about it, they're going to soak it in more. They're going to learn. It's such a cool thing. And so that has really changed from when I started education to what I'm doing now. I tell people that I would never go back to a traditional setting. And I'm just so excited about it because I see what it does for our kids here. I see, even my own children that go to school here and, they might be really good at reading, but really struggle in math. So how can we support them without giving them all the same work as, someone else in the room that is not struggling? They need more.
The lens that we use to look at things, I think, really matters. In this spring, I did some podcasts. We've seen the surveys in North Dakota and around the nation about how many educators are thinking about getting out of education. But that's what inspired me was Brett's story, why I'm staying in education and wanting to work on this podcast with him. And I see the same energy from you on that, just the positivity and some hope and how we talk about it matters. And so with that, what are some things that do give you hope in education?
Yeah, I think, I love that that states do this teacher of the year and just having, these ways that we can all communicate with each other and the connections that you make. I think everybody has such a cool story to share. And that's why, with the teacher of the year and just being a part of that and being, top 4, it was just so rewarding to be a part of that and see the connections that we can make. And that's why I hope to just continue to share our story and, kind of see where that goes. So I really do, for hope for me is just, I want people to see how we can just maybe not go to full personalized learning, but just see that there's other ways that we can rethink education, and how can we present it in a new way? How can we involve families in different ways? Really, as a mom myself, I just want to know that my kid is like a good person. Yes, conferences are great and knowing their scores and things like that, but how can we involve parents in that and get them, like I said before, parent involvement is just so important. So how can we, I think if we're working together with community and families, that's going to provide some hope as well. I think we have a lot of fresh new ideas of people coming up into the profession. I said earlier, just working with Concordia, I see how eager these new educators are. And I think we need to, as, maybe a more veteran teacher, we need to keep giving them that support, and we need to be mentoring them. And, the way that we were able to have those amazing mentors along the way. I think I run our mentor program here for our new educators. So that's another, we got to keep keep them going and supporting them and telling them that they're doing such a great job and what can we do to support you, and book studies and all that kind of stuff. I just think that just gives me hope for what's going to happen here in education in the future. And again, just having all of those connections with others and continuing to do this across the state and even, across the states as well.
So you've spoken a lot about what kind of gets you excited, and I'm wondering today, Megan, is there a moment or a story where teaching or maybe a student made a difference to you? Like, is there that? I'm thinking in my career too. There's moments where you're like, yeah, that's why I do it. That's exactly. Is there a moment that you could share with us, or a situation that you could share with us that's why I want to do this?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a sad story, but I think when I first started teaching, I felt like I was just so rigid and like needed to follow the guides and needed to, kids need to respect me. You kind of had like that authoritarian, that's how you say it, authoritarian kind of aspect. But when I just was able to kind of loosen up, it just changed my whole outlook so much. And I think that moment that happened was when I was probably only in my 5th or 6th year, and one of my learners' dad had cancer and had passed away. And, when my kids could see me crying and they were crying and we were together as a family and talked about it. And, I was able to go to the hospital and see the family. I think that was just kind of when I was that aha, educators are real people. Kids are real. They need to see that you are a real person as well. They need to see you outside of at activities and supporting them. And, I love to go see my kids if they're in, playing basketball on a Saturday. I love to go watch them just so that their parents, their families, for one, see that, I support them even outside of the classroom. But I think once I just kind of let go of that, of where I just felt like I was just so rigid and needed to follow, you hear all these things, and when you're going to college, this is how classroom management and things like that. And I think when I kind of let go of that and kind of let go of that control as well, and just let kids make mistakes and then, talk through it. This is what we learned from it. It was such a cool moment when I finally, although it was a sad ending, it was we became such a family that year. It was just awesome. And we so close. And the following years, I was just able to say like, all right, I really truly love my kids, like my own. And of course, then when I have my own kids, then I was like, gosh, these are all somebody's babies. Like when I had my own baby, I was like, okay, now I'm sending them off to school. This is what these parents do to me every year. They are somebody's baby. That was kind of also an aha moment for me too, with when I started having my own babies. But yeah, there's been a lot of moments. Obviously, last year being called, when I was called and said your top 4, that was just a huge, for me, just a life changer, game changer as well. Just because, we work so hard as educators, and just to be recognized for it. Yes, we're very humble about it, but I'm also like, it just feels good to be recognized as well.
I just want to add to this. I love what you said about, letting students see you in a different light. And I'm 100% agreement with you. I think back to when I was younger, everything had to be just so, and you had to do everything just by the book and how I was done. And I started to change when people would say to me, you're going to let your kids do that? I said, they're learning, they're understanding, and they're growing, and they feel empowered. And when kids feel empowered, there's no end to what they can do. And so I love what you said there about how you, not only your class changed, but yourself, your personal self changed. And I think as educators, if you do this long enough, you're going to do that with yourself too. Yeah. I think I know I have. So I thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Megan, getting back to the newer, younger, early educators, what advice would you have for them?
I think that is really, part of my answer before is just, just be yourself. And yes, you still need to have control in your room, but also maybe give some of that control up a little bit, and learners will realize that it's not just my classroom, but it's our classroom. Let kids choose where they want to sit if it works. Let kids maybe even help decorate the room. I have couple things that I do is for my kids to kind of feel like they're part of the room is, each family sends in a family picture. So I have those in here. So it kind of feels like home. And then our portrait of a learner, it just feels the kids get to hang those up, and kids get to see all about them. And I think it's just so important to create that classroom family first. And then I promise you that you will be able to, they'll do anything for you. If you start where you're just like, oh, we're going to start with this curriculum and make sure we get this all in. It's just really hard then to come back when you just got to create that safe space first, and kind of teach them that you are going to make mistakes. And I think, just let loose and have fun a little bit too as a new educator. I think, like I said before, I thought I had to do everything by the book. And I think when they see that you're just a human too, and you laugh and joke with them and figure out what they're into, you really have the rest of the year they're going to do, and you have the family support, they're going to do anything for you.
You had, you've kind of already alluded to this, I think, but I'm curious on your answer. What do you think we could do, or what could be done or changed to make education better in your eyes, Megan?
Yeah, I think honestly, one of the biggest things is like all the assessments that we do with our kids, and, like, oh, are they learning this and are we getting it? And yes, that's important. But I also think, like, for us, just talking about competencies and maybe just changing and looking at what are these skills that our kids need in life? Again, yes, they, need to know how to do math and things like that. But ultimately, as a mom, when I think like when I say I want my kids to just be a good person, what are those skills that they need to be a good person, or that they need to learn how to work hard? Use your growth mindset, use your learner's mindset, being a good leader, things like that. Like those skills, the rest of that can come, or we can teach you that. But if you don't have those skills to be able to work, after school, if you're going to go and wherever you go, if you're going into the workforce, if you're going to college, military, you still need to have those skills. And I think like those competencies are so important. I'm really, yeah, I really can't think of anything else right specifically as to what we need to do in education. I think the positivity, continuing with that and just getting those educators that are like we need to help those mentors or help those mentees, those new educators coming in. They need to see the positivity and the cool things that can happen if we kind of let our learners make mistakes and learn from them and have those opportunities.
So why should students consider a career in education?
Well, to me, it's going to sound cliche, but it's just so rewarding. I love what I do. I don't feel like it's a job when I come here. Yes, there are days when it's hard. But I just think there's so many cool things that you get to see in education. Just being a part of it in my short 14 years, there's so many changes that I've already seen, just talking about kind of rethinking education. And I just love that it's not like the same every year too. It's a change. It's every year you get a fresh set of learners and, you send them on and they're always going to be my learners. But I just think when you get to see all these different personalities and truly we are shaping these kids for our future. There's no other job like that. That is just the coolest thing to me. I mean, why would you not go into education? We get to make all of those other, dreams and jobs come true for people. And it's awesome.
So Tom said it earlier, and you've heard the data that we've got a lot of people that are thinking about leaving or are leaving. And I'm really excited to hear your answer on this because just listening to you talk gets me going, gets me excited. What is your why for staying in education?
Oh, I love that question. It's kind of cool because we here at our school, we have to post our why. Since I got here, they've done this for a few years now, but we all have our why posted outside of our room. And I think that'd be a cool idea if people don't do that in their districts right now. I think it's such a cool idea of just going around when you walk into somebody's room, what their why is, kind of why they do what they do. For me, I just think that kids deserve to have, people that are creating those safe spaces in their room, rethinking education, like what can we do differently, presenting school in a different way. Also just kind of letting them explore those curiosities and passions that they have, being able to teach them how to advocate for themselves and in their learning, setting goals, questioning things, inquiring. I love when kids are, just want to know the answer to something. And it's like, well, let's look it up. If I don't know, let's find the answer. And just developing those skills to be good humans. I just think I'm super passionate about our Portrait of a Graduate skills. We actually now call them Portrait of a Learner skills because I just feel graduate, it's like, oh, we'll just wait till, they're juniors and seniors. But I just think it's so important that those learners get that, at a young age and start thinking about it. They need to have somebody that is, supporting them. They need that champion. They deserve to be loved and valued. They don't maybe always get that. Not every learner gets that at home, and they need a place where they can feel safe and have somebody that's going to push them and find that relevance in their learning.
Well, Megan Margerum from Northern Cass, between Arthur and Fargo, but you call Arthur home, in that cornfield, which I've been to your school a couple of times, so I know exactly where it's at. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us on the What's Your Why podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on What's Your Why. For Brett Doctor, I'm Tom Gerhardt.